folks, welcome back to another video, officially first video of 2024. If you're new here, my name is Nikita, and on this channel we prioritize BIPOC stories, especially South Asian stories. So today we'll be talking about some of the books that I read in December, not too many, and what I'm currently reading in January. Oh, and some of you expressed curiosity about my sweatshirt. So this is a sweatshirt that I made. It says go to therapy. It is also on my Etsy shop. I have an Etsy shop. I'll have it linked down below. I have 3 variations of this. So there's a go to therapy, there's therapy's political, and a one on self-compassion, be kind to your mind. So if you're interested, take a look, but let's get started with the books. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'll first take you through the fiction books that I read in the month of December, and then some of the non-fictions that I, had been reading for a few months and that are wrapped up and finished in the month of December. So the very first fiction book that I finished was Merry Little Meet Cute by Julie Murphy. This was a nice little holiday romance. It was very, very spicy, so if you do not like spicy romances, you should, this may not be for you, but it was great. It's basically set in this small town. So it's like small town vibes. And it's about B, who's our main character. She is an adult film actress. And she also has what is like the equivalent of OnlyFans in the book. And she's trying to break into like Netflix's movie industry. And she wants to be an actress in like outside of like the adult film industry. And it's nice. It's a really nice setting. I guess I hadn't seen or read with a character with, with that type of experience in past and, trying to move forward in different capacities. That's what it's about. So it is like on a film set, which is a small town. And then she's also plus size. So I really appreciate that inclusivity in romance, especially. It was nice. I gave it 4 stars. What I really appreciated about it that made me give it 4 stars was, again, like the unique, or at least unique for me, character profiles and the setting, and the pace. The pace of the book was nice. It kept me, interested in it. After that, I read Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey, and I read it for my book club, and I'll be honest, the first 25%, 30% was really a drag, but I became a little bit more invested into the story by the end. Still not, a book that I absolutely loved. I gave it around 3 to 3.5 stars. It's just something about Tessa Bailey's 2023 releases that just haven't done it for me. Like, I don't find them as exciting and as lovable as some of her earlier works. Maybe I've hit like a Tessa Bailey slump. It's possible, but this was not my favorite. And also the male character was very toxic. If you've read this book, let me know your thoughts down below. Like, what did you think of the male character? What's his name? Beat. Like, what's going on? Like, did this feel red flaggy to anyone else, or was it just me? But this is essentially about Beat and Melody. These are these 2 kids of rock star moms who used to be in a band together in the 90s, and then they had this like huge like public separation, and they've been estranged ever since, and now their 2 children, who are adults in this book, are trying to bring them together for a reunion concert. And so again, a very unique setting. I actually kind of liked that, a little bit of like Hollywood music industry setting. But also what really bothered me about this book was that it was not necessarily a Christmas book. And somebody had posted this as a Goodreads comment, and that didn't register for me until I read that comment, and that made me go, yes, this is not a Christmas book. Like, it's just that the reunion concert that they're trying to hold happens to be on Christmas Eve. That's about it. There's no other Christmassy elements in here besides like a party or 2. So this just felt like this type of book could have been packaged for the summer, could have been packaged for any season, really. There's nothing really about it that made it Christmas. Ooh, okay, after that, I read The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. This is the second part to Molly the Maid series. I really enjoyed Maid, the first one. So the second one was also pretty nice. I gave it 3.75 stars. It's so specific, it's ridiculous, I know. But this was actually a pretty nice sequel. So if you haven't read the first one, I will say definitely go read the first one. You do need to read these in a sequence. This isn't the type of series where you can jump in whenever you want and wherever you want, but it was nice. I think I still didn't give it 4 stars because, you know, with like sequels, it's really hard to create a lot of like element of mystique and surprise and unfamiliarity because you already know like the characters and their setting, and this is the exact same characters. It's same Molly, you know, from the first book. She's a maid at a really nice upscale hotel. We do get a lot more glimpses from her past, which I really appreciated. And there's certainly been like a lot of character development, and I liked how some characters from the first book got their comeuppance. I really appreciated that. But I think this is a great sequel. I think I definitely want to own both of these books in like physical copies because I would love to add them to my collection. If you're looking for a new cozy mystery that isn't super intense, check out Molly. The second last fiction book that I read was Midwinter Murder Fireside Tales from the Queen of Mystery. It's a collection of short stories set around Christmas by Agatha Christie. And this was just hanging out on my Kobo for a few months. I had got it at some point during a sale for like a couple bucks. And I slowly worked my way through them. All the stories are mystery stories and they're all the short stories are set during Christmas. Some of them were very good. Others were just, I did not like them at all. So all in all, for me, I gave this 3 stars. I think I would say I like the fact that these were so compact because sometimes, as much as I love my Agatha Christie's, it becomes like a bit of a drag, right? Especially with like the old, like complicated English and just the like the convoluted setting. So I like that these were like bite-sized, but some of the stories were not good. Like one of them just like left me confused. I had no idea what had happened, and not in a good way. You know, I just like couldn't grasp the story whatsoever. So not my favorite, but I will be checking out some other short story compilations by Agatha Christie because I like this. I think I like this more than reading like a big novel. And the last fiction book that I read in January, even though I ended up finishing it in December, even though I ended up finishing it in January, I'm still going to include it here because I spent most of it was read in December, and that's part 2 to Merry Little Meet Cute. It's A Holly Jolly Ever After by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. I bought the paperback because I enjoyed the first one a lot, and so, you know, I fell into that trap where I was like, okay, I'm gonna get the second one. And I mean, I shouldn't call it a trap, it was still a good book. I gave it 3.5 stars. This doesn't follow the same characters, so you have, even though there's mentions of this characters from book 1, this has 2 new characters. It's set in the same film industry setting, in the same film town, which I believe is called Christmas Notch. It was very cute. I enjoyed the cover. I enjoyed the spine of this book. And it was a good size. I will say I was a little bit bored by the end of it, but I think that's a me thing. I'm like that with a lot of books. But this is basically about, this follows 2 characters from the first book. So you have the friend of the main guy from the first book, Callum, and our female interest is Winnie Baker. She was not a major character in the first book. She was just mentioned here and there because she was supposed to be the actress in the first book, but then she had an injury at a ski resort and she couldn't. So now it's the 2 of them. And this is a bit of a, I think it's sold as like enemies to lovers a little bit, but it felt like a little bit realistic enemies to lovers. It wasn't super unrealistic, if you know what I mean. This was nice. The premise here is that Winnie, she is, you know, the total opposite of the first character, the main character from the first book, which was B. So Winnie is this very, you know, good-to-do, comes from a nice religious family, got married at like 19. She's very, I guess you can say naive in so many ways. And she has now been divorced in her early 30s, and now she's breaking out into making this like spicy rom-com that goes against everything that she grew up believing. It goes against like the conservative values of her family, of her upbringing, and it's sort of like a rebellion in a sense for her, and her reclaiming her like individuality as an adult. So I mean, it's not that deep, I guess. It's just my descriptors are a little intense, but that's what I got from it, and I appreciated that. What I like about these two authors is that both the female characters have been very unusual and complicated, at least for me, in the romance genre, and I appreciated it. Again, a really spicy book. The main character, the main guy was okay for me, but I liked Winnie. Ooh, and it also has some like mature topics, like a pregnancy. So I liked it. I thought it was fun. It was nothing that was like had me raving about it, but also it was over 400 pages. Rom-coms do not need to be over 400 pages. Like, I don't understand why they make them so long. I don't know. Does anybody else, do you like really long rom-coms? I want them bite-sized. I want them brief. I want them fun. I just don't like it when they're really dragged on. All right, let's get into the non-fictions that I read for most of last year, but I just ended up wrapping up in December. I'm resharing this because some of you have shared some interest in knowing the types of non-fictions that I read. If you follow me on Goodreads, my Goodreads is down below. You'll be able to see pretty much every single book that I read anyway, so you'll know what I'm reading. But for those of you who don't follow me on there, here are some of the books that I wrapped up in December. First is A Myth of Normal by Dr. Gabor Mate. This is a monster of a book. This is like, I think 600-700 pages, so it's big and it's like dense material. If you have not heard of Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a bit of a pop culture sensation as well at this time. He is a Canadian trauma physician who has dedicated his life to doing research around how trauma impacts like brain health, how childhood trauma impacts like your resiliency, your personality, how stress impacts the body. This in particular, The Myth of Normal, he talks about a whole bunch of things. This is in a way a condensed version of a lot of his other books that he's written over the years, so you get snippets of a lot of different things like addictions and stress. But the premise here is that how stress and stressful lives have been so normalized in our culture, but it's not normal for the body, right? Just because something has been normalized doesn't actually make it normal. So it was really interesting. There's a lot of conversation around how mental stress physically impacts the body and generates disease in the body. And so if you like that type of thing, you would really appreciate anything by him. He's great. Also, the audiobook was lovely for this. It was narrated by his son, Daniel Mate. And I would recommend both, like the written version and the audiobook version. Next up, I finished What Happened to You? Conversations on Trauma, Resilience, and Healing by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. I would recommend the audiobook of this because the whole book is written like a back and forth dialogue between Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah. And so when you're reading it too, like text, it's written as like a transcript. So Bruce says this, Oprah says this. So I would recommend the audiobook because it just feels like a really long podcast that you're listening to. But I read this book months and months and months ago. I just technically marked it as complete in December. But this is again a great book along the same lines around trauma, stress, how it impacts the body, and especially how early life trauma changes the brain and the nervous system in children. So Dr. Bruce Perry is another scientist of that generation of folks who've come in and done a lot of research on how trauma and stress impact the body. And he's done some lovely work. And so it's him having a conversation about his work and his research findings with Oprah. Great book, amazing diagrams. I will say, if you're going to read one nonfiction in 2024, make it this one. This book, it's going to change your life. It's great. It's lovely. After that, I marked as finish Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by Nedra Glover Tawwab. Nedra Tawwab is a therapist in the States. She's a Black female therapist. She's written some lovely work around folks of color and cultural considerations around boundary setting, self-esteem and stuff. So this particular one is on how to set boundaries. And It's a great book. It's not super dense. It's not like a textbook type of a self-help book. It's like broken down into some really easily digestible pieces. She also has a podcast on Spotify. Check her out. And her Instagram page is also really great. This book is lovely. Like, I recommend it to people all the time. She takes you through what are healthy boundaries, what are unhealthy boundaries, what are things that make it difficult for us to set boundaries, how can you set boundaries? And it's not of like a very cookie cutter approach. It has this like built-in lens of consideration of folks of color and racialized populations. So I really appreciate this. So those were the books that I finished reading in December. As for the books I'm reading in January, so the start of the year has been pretty good. I have read a couple books that I'll be sharing my thoughts on at the end of the month. I have read Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood, and I finally read Honor by Tridi Umriger. I don't think I'm pronouncing her name right. I'm going to look this up, but both of them are great, but I'll share my thoughts on them later. Right now, I gotta say, I'm struggling a little bit. I've started a few books, but I find myself feeling distracted from them. So let me show you what I'm currently reading. One of the books that I'm reading right now is huge. This is The Armor of Light by Ken Follett. This is the 5th book in the Pillars of the Earth series. I have all 4 of them down here. And I have been looking forward to this book for some time. It's huge. This is like 700 something pages. I will slowly read it over the course of a couple months. If you haven't read the Pillars of the Earth series, it's actually really nice. If you like historical fiction that has romance, drama, mystery, politics, all of that like cool stuff in it, you would appreciate this series. It is like huge. Like each book is like close to 1,000 pages, and this one came out in the fall. Yeah, not much to say about it. I really like this series. There are, of course, like few issues with it for sure, that there's some trigger warnings that go overlooked. Not many people talk about them. Other than that, if you need like a new historical fiction series, and you don't mind the size of these books, and you like that there's a little bit of each genre in each book, check it out. You might like them. I'm gonna put this down now because it's really heavy. And the next thing that I'm reading that I actually picked up very recently, like I haven't even gotten a chance to get a real bookmark for it, like I'm just using the receipt. But I was at the bookstore yesterday just browsing. I didn't really go in with any intention of buying anything. And I saw that C.J. Cook had come out with a new book. This is A Haunting in the Arctic. This is the same author who wrote Lighthouse Witches. And that book was so good. I have it back there. It's a really great book. It's like historical fiction, mystery, bit of fantasy, and it's a really cool like mishmash of a few different genres. And this is also, I think, in the same breath. So this is about A Haunting in the Arctic. It's set off the coast of Iceland, so the northern coast of Iceland, the coast that's really touching the Arctic Circle. And we have a couple different timelines. So early 1900s, you have 1901, and then you have 1973, and then you have like as recent as December 2023. So this is basically about a ship. It's like a whaling ship, Orman, that had been used, in the early 1900s, late 1800s to go like whale hunting to generate blubber, so that can be used in like factories and like whatnot and stuff. In Scotland. It follows the main character, Nikki, who finds herself trapped on the Orman while it's coasting. And then you skip forward to like 1973, so like decades later, this had now at this point turned into like a research ship. So scientists had been taking this ship for expeditions to the Arctic Circle to collect like water samples and like whatnot and ice samples. So in the 70s, one researcher is found dead and like brutally like torn apart on the ship, and all of the crew and the other like team members, researchers have all disappeared. Not sure what happened to them. And then the third timeline that you have is present day with Dominique. She's an explorer, and this is what she does. She goes to abandoned things and abandoned places, and she explores them for her TikTok, YouTube, and that's where we're at. I won't say more. I will say, if you've been here for a while, you've heard me say this over and over again, so I apologize. But with these types of books, I find that the less you know about them going into them, the better that they're going to be, because almost everything is going to catch you by surprise. So I started this last night. I'm about 100 pages through, and I see myself finishing this by this weekend. So I will keep you posted on this. I am very excited about this. If you've read this or the new Ken Follett, you let me know. Okay, that's all, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you had a really lovely start to 2024. Let me know what books you are really looking forward to reading this month, and we will connect again soon. Thanks.